So the title of this workshop is Community Regeneration, Self-Organised Repair. My name is Davidson. I'm the co-chair of the African Emancipation Day Reparation March Committee. Also work with Sister Esther on the Stop the Madu Meeting campaign as well. What we're planning to do is have a discussion, and then we'll take some answers from the floor, and we can have a conversation. This is what we want to do. There's going to be some presentations. I'm just going to read you where the direction we want to go, and then from there I'll introduce our panelists. We might be joined by a few others because people think that time is crucial when they come back. So we're here to highlight the importance of recognizing the damage that has been inflicted against people of African heritage communities in the context of the Mahanga meeting. For those who don't know, who's hearing the words all day and seen it around the building, this is a Swahili term which speaks on the intentionally of the African Holocaust, chattel, colonial and neo-colonial enslavement. We're clear from the discussion so far in the conference that we are in a state of disrepair, continuously being attacked by all forms of destructive practices by those who are racialized as white or European dominants all over the global south. This has meant total devaluation of human life, of an African way of living, which even ourselves have been taught to look down on as inferior. So we are so far removed from our ancestral role as stewards of the environment, for instance, and even our Afrophobia we take out on ourselves. So in the context of the community regeneration, we are totally in a state of despair, and this is a topic. We cannot have justice in just this one session of the all-party parliamentary group for African reparations. That's a good place to start. So before we take questions for yourself and pose ours, I'd just like to introduce, in fact, it's more justice if you can do it yourself. Mamadou, mate, you just tell me a bit about yourself.
Senegal, Guinea, Mali, all the way it's been divided. Just wanted to underline this. So I'm very happy to be here to share my experience from Senegal about what we're facing. And I think the issue we're facing in Senegal are the same here in the Black community or whatever. I'm here as I work in activism. I'm raising what's going on in Senegal and West Africa in terms of human rights.
And Sister Vera.
Coordinated to AFRO organization. It is Africa identity and to empower the Black racism, and explain after about the quilombos.
So, Mamadou, can we start with you and give us your experience around what you feel is the direction or approach we should be taking, and just your presentation?
So I think one of the first things we need to do actually for we African descent, Black or even non-Black actually, we need to be proud of what we are. Whatever you form, you need to be one year. What's going on in Africa is, I was born in France, by the way. What happened is we've been enslaved, in a mental state actually. When we, raised me as a French, and when I reach my teenage ages, this is where I face racism. You're French, but you're not French, you do really, second class citizen, I'm not here to criticize. Bear with me. I'm just saying the reality of what we've been, and the same thing in Senegal, actually. And in Senegal, we are suffering from what I can call most of the time when you see white people, they are like, oh, it's like God. So whatever he's saying is true. So we need to abide by their law. So once again, I'm not here to criticize black, but that's not the issue. That's not the issue. What we're here is to talk about how we can face, how we can overcome this issue, how we can overcome this issue so that we can, going towards, African, sorry, it's a shame because I've prepared something on PowerPoint. I can't share with you, but basically, what I want to go through is a few things. Slave driver lyrics. Our very souls. Today, they say that we are free. It's illiteracy. It's only a machine that makes money. So this actually just describe what happened during the slavery, colonization, and today. And all of this is all about money. How they keep us down. But the question is, you all know about this. So I'm not here to tell you about history because you all know about this. What I want is, what can we do about it? But the most importantly, what can we do? One of the things is self-awareness of what you are, be proud of what you are. Mandinka, so speak Mandinka, Arabic or English, but be proud of what you are. That's one of the programs we've been talking in Senegal. So we're trying to rally people again. Senegal first. That doesn't mean we are Senegal. We want to be in charge of our land. We want to be in charge of our currency. We want to be in charge of our history. Not that we want to write something according to what we want, but we want to be fair in what we're going to educate our children. But we're facing a system which doesn't want that. So as I speak in Senegal, there are 1,500 political. March 21, they've been 60 people, no inquiry, no investigation, all to maintain the system in office for the richer within. So I'm not gonna be long, but basically we got many programs actually, and I can share it for those who are interested about what we want for Senegal and Africa. It's basically the same actually. Wherever you go, all the same, Just going absolutely but so what we can do actually about it. right to MP about the human rights in Senegal. The US State Department wrote Human Rights Watch, got many reports out there, about the situation in Senegal. Because the only thing we want to take our country back, because I think it's very important to have a framework, values, and the will of what the people of the country wants, and not people from external interest. So I will. So some action we can do actually. Next year, we have a very important election in Senegal. So what we want is a free, fair, inclusive election. Unfortunately, in reality, on the ground, that's not the case. Value, to preserve our value, they're being sold. And the system is trying to prevent them from going to run for the presidency. So there's a petition going on, so you can sign if you want it. Another bit as well of action you can do as well is to call on the. You should know that UK government investment in Senegal. So you see the taxpayer money. So you have a say on how the money should be spent. So, and given the human rights going on in Senegal, you can have a say to your MP, look, this is what's going on, why do we invest in this? Whereas those people are not free, they can benefit from the resources. And it is them on and on, Thank you very much for your
Yeah, I talked to about Columbus. I tend to talk to you about Brazil, because Brazil is the largest Black population in the world. If you Columbus was one place of protection and security for African. They still fight for possession of their land. Quilombolas, indigenous lands are, and that's why there is a struggle for those lands. Brazil has 1.3 million people who go in the ancestral their lives. Alumna territory is the largest Quilombola community in Brazil. As leaders still happen now. One example, 30 Quilombolas leaders.
My phone's going off. I'm on my way out of London.
Killed inside the Quilombos and were victims of firearms. This year, unfortunately, it shocked us because on Thursday, 17th of August, my Bernadette, I show you the speaker who was, he has 17 years old. She was leader of Quilombo in Bahia. And she was killed inside her home. It shocked us because the Quilombolas is still killed for government don't protect the lives, the Afro-descendants, the Quilombolas people. They killed the criminal, shot her from 10 shots in her face. The ways in Fortaleza had no project to genocide against Black and indigenous people there. And the indigenous and Quilombolas fight to recognize their lands for demarcation. Oh, sorry.
You got it. You got it. It doesn't matter. We understand.
It's about the demarcation land, the lack of recognizing from the government to legally give the rights of the land to the Quilombolas, indigenous, give evidence of the institutional and the structural racism, continue the violence and injustice by the Brazilian state. And another case in Brazil is about favelas. Favelas were also the place that slaves found to live after the false abolition, because they are left after false abolition. These people left without land, without access to work, education, health, and the Brazilian government denied the rights for these people and to maintain the oppression of Afro-descendants. Today, favelas live in constant insecurity because there is no social justice for these people. Young Black people in Brazil who are killed every 23. The genocide of Black people in Brazil is part of the plan to exterminate our people after false abolition. In Brazil, we represent 65%. White supremacy occupies all hours of power, from the president of Brazil, system, the health, the justice system, economy, constantly threatened by agribusiness, land grabbers, and racist institutional system. Historical reparation, it is a small act of a debt that will never be paid. The crazy barbarity that was ever happening. They were human beings who dehumanizing by colonism. The thief of health over the centuries by the European countries, and which accumulate her objectives from around the world. I have here today Portugal, because in Portugal have many from Brazil, the artifacts from indigenous people, and many artifacts exist there, is still there. And in France too. In France, for example, Brazil must put an end to the similar store because artifacts in the still in France to finish here, but I need to know about the demarcation of indigenous and Quilombolas lands is reparation. We demand the Brazilian government justice for Afro-descendant indigenous people. And you demand reparation now.
Brother Kojo, who's joined us as replacement of guest speaker. If you just tell us a bit about yourself and give us 5 minutes, 6 minutes on your views and approach on generation.
Okay, my name is Kojo Asara Bonsu, from Jamaica, and is presently living in the UK and is transitioning now through into the mother continent. The conversation around community and community regeneration is built fundamentally on 2 elements. One of them is land, and the other one is access to that land. Now, when we look at the word regeneration, the beginning words, which is re, tells that this is something that is ongoing. It's not static. It doesn't stand still. And because of that, it will engage in the new creative thinking of people based on their own indigenous systems and paradigms. It's interesting to know that right here in the UK, the ruling elite has been suppressing, oppressing, and exploiting their own people through issues of land, especially with the Land Enclosure Act. The Land Enclosure Act actually creates a condition of deprivation and serious destitution that the book Oliver Twist could have been written. Access to land means underdevelopment, and underdevelopment basically is poverty. This created the condition for the mass movement of working class English people called indentured servants into the United States of America in the 1600s. Without land, you can't develop. Everything is land. So therefore, the power and the basis of people's development is land, access to that land, and the resources of the land. But for me, my conversation is that reparation is meaningless if it's not based on the restoration and the restitution of land primarily. There can be no conversation about reparation, the repair of a people, without their connection to the land, because the land is where everything is, and the land is where everything gives empowerment. The land provides you with everything that you need. And one of the things that we're now presently seeing is that the media and the powers to be, the ruling elite, are trying to confuse people, where they're trying to tell you that reparation means money. I would say as African people, we need to be careful with this money program, because if they change from money as it is now to this crypto thing, what are we gonna do with it? Yeah, it will become meaningless. So therefore, I would suggest that as we globally, as African people and our allies, and I'm even suggesting that English people, working class English people, really go and check out their own history, because they will find out that in as much as they think that they're part of the club, all they need to do is to go back to Maryland in 1675 with the Bacon's Rebellion, from which we now have the present day divide and rule tactics of the narrative of whiteness. So as we put all of these things together, indeed it is people power that will bring about an engagement of change where equity and balance can be the order of the day. As part of the reparations movement here in the UK, I do not support anything that is outside of a reparation that is African-based. There has to be a power base that provides protection and provision for its people wherever we find ourselves. So it has to be African-centered. It's got to be Pan-African. Outside of the Berlin Conference, 1884-1885, we're not talking about countries, we're talking about a continent and its people. Exactly. Which gives us access, which gives access to everything that enables us to be empowered in order to live. So as we gather, let us not be daunted. It's a long struggle. I mean, come to think of it, I am my ancestor and I'm carrying the requirement now to ensure that those who are coming after me will be enabled to live a life of equity and balance. So as we talk reparation and we go down the streets, anybody come to you with money, they don't have a clue. The essence of reparation is the restitution and the return of the land, access to the land and the resources of the land from which comes power.
Now, what I want to do really is bring it back to you. Any thoughts, any reflections, anyone wants to make any comments, question. But we keep in mind the challenges that we face. A lot of times we highlight the problems, but we need solutions now. And it doesn't just need you listening to our solutions. We need to share yours as well, so we can take this into consideration. So some of the obstacles us regenerating our community, what we be facing. We discussed of what's on the continent, on the global scale, and how can we tie these things together practically and work in our favor. And we can't dismiss the harm that's posed against us all the time. There's a hand at the back, and then Mr. Sister here.
Hi there, my name is Io.
Sorry, I just want to. Yeah. No, I'll run you the mic. So.
Okay. Title actually is Io Omaweri Ina Ojo Aleko Muzo Ogo. If you miss Io, then I'm sorry. I originally come from Liverpool, Toki as they used to call it back in the day, and it's just the sort of confirmation. Sorry, I didn't catch your name, the guy with the black and white hat.
Brother Kofi.
Brother Kofi.
Sorry, Kojo.
Kojo is spot on when he's talking about land, I would call it reclamation, because one of the examples from Liverpool 8 was in the 1980s when Margaret Thatcher decided to desecrate the area because people were being very unified in their coming together of groups and being a strong force. It was money that separated and divided people. So like organisations, there'd be one person who'd get a lot of money and then there'd be somebody else who didn't get the money. So I would back what Brother Kojo is saying in terms of land and having it, being able to pass it on to generations. That's just my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, and really great contributions from everybody. My name is Valerie, and I'm the co-founder of a think tank called the Black Policy Institute, an educator of 25 years spanning. My, I guess, comment or contribution or question, if you can make it, if you may, it's about post-Brexit. We saw a lot of our Northern Ireland and Irish brothers and sisters, siblings, trying to get their passports to make sure that they could go back home. And the thing that we have in education is that many of us as Black, African, Caribbean, space, and we're not knowing of restoration and the whole holistic approach. So I just wanted to ask, in terms of, because people think about just money, but holistically, how can we as a people not just get the money, but also the land aspect, and also, like, I don't know, for our next generation, because once you get the money, that can be easily spent, but how do we take the plane back home? So where my parents are from Ghana, I can't even get So it's things like that. So I don't know, just make what you can of that, but just talking about us not just being proud of our, I guess, Britishness and getting our purple passport or now blue post Brexit. How do we go back home and get what belongs to us in terms of immigration?
My name is Madu. I'm associated with Mama Art Center. I'm going to propose, first of all, flag up a very great challenge and to propose a solution to that challenge. What this sister has just mentioned is a big issue. What I would say is the challenge that we have is to have access to space, safe space. It says brother, is it Kojo?
Kojo, yeah.
Brother Kojo.
Kojo.
He's referenced land. In a metropolitan place like this, we're talking about access to space. Today, we are in a building, utilizing a building, and it's at the goodwill of others. But actually, as a collective, as a people, as a community, we have been disinherited from what we have. And therefore, our situation is what we hold on to in terms of space. There's few of us who have that space. And certainly when we're talking about coming together as a group, finding that space to be able to be ourselves and connect with ourselves is a challenge. And fundamentally in the diaspora, it is about actually connecting to who we are. And going back further than that, it is to know who we are. Because there's a lot of us that we don't know who we are. So even when we get access to resources because we don't know who we are, we're going to lose it. So for me, the challenge, the biggest challenge is to have a space where, and I'm not going to be politically correct. I'm talking about African Black people in a space by ourselves to talk our business so that we can identify who we are. Now, how do we do that? Well, no one's going to give it to us. No one's going to give it to us. And the challenge that we have is, where are we spending the few resources that we have? Can we prioritize in different ways to get a space together, to put our hands together and prioritize that over occupying an identity that isn't our own? So when I say occupying an identity that isn't our own, it's as simple as going and buying shoes made by other people or a suit or clothing from Marks and Spencer's or from an online chain so that we can fit in and feel okay. But that's not actually our identity. So we are known consumers. And even though we don't have much relative to other people, we do have something. And so the solution, one of the solutions is that we have to look internally and decide we're going to club together and try and appropriate spaces. Say that also in terms of even on a personal level, as families, being able to buy properties, owning properties, so that we have a basis for our wealth, to buy, to fund owning larger spaces so that we can gather together and start to repair our identity. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Excellent. On access to land, I've heard that twice pop up. So that's very important in our moving forwards, and the resources on the land as well. But can you talk on the difficulties or the challenges we face on land that we have, which we don't seem to have control over? What is the challenges, briefly, and what would we need to do? How can we help, as like you highlighted in Senegal, in Colombia as well, to access Brazil? Sorry. Yeah, accessing that. What's the challenge? How do we go about it? Because we're here, we're fine. We have everything. We can talk about it. You have people that's losing their lives on the land. They're facing certain atrocities. You've got law that's meant to protect them and working against it. Yeah, there's poverty levels which you have abundance from. So how could you help us, advise us how we go about that the best way?
Says the land. I think it's a global issue. Basically, if you got the money anywhere, I mean, here we can buy, I mean, here, out my hand in Senegal, you know, because I got the money. But, you know, is to make that land available to everyone living in that country. And as I said again, and I will repeat again, sure, but in order to achieve things, we need to think of the system into place. Because land is part of it, currency is part of it, seas, fishes, you know. Because it's saying that the government kind of sold all the sea to the Chinese. Coming into here in Europe, people from Senegal coming here because they sold all, you know, this is ours, you know. So how are we going to get it? When we go into the street, fight, we're going to quit. And they said, look, there are terrorists on the bill, we fought on things, you know. So that's the issue of how we can do to support us. So one of the things we got project got everything in it. Our language, our land, our money, our resources, our now.
Sorry, the project itself.
Yes.
What challenges will it face? What opposition will it come up with?
Okay. One of the first things is you know that even in the time of slavery, so you got a guy from here in UK or France, they buy it or they buy it from the local, I mean they go into Senegal, they just grab, you know, or their parents. But they need people in Senegal, for example, you know, the local rulers, they prize them, you know, they got houses here in the UK, in France, the US, or everywhere. They got a bank account full of money, you know. So it's just a choice between those two people. So in order to break this, but as I said, at the moment, one of the issues, the challenges we're facing is the system is so strong because you've got all the elites who owns the media, who own the banks, who own the politicians, who own some religious, they own it, you know. So this is the society. If you divide the society, they own them. So this is a reality we're facing on the ground.
I agree with you about to embrace our identity because I'm come from Brazil. And I don't know about the African history. And now I push my people for learn about this, for recognize because education, Afrocentric education is the key for the change in this situation. Because Eurocentric education continue in the university, in the school, secondary school, you need to know, you need to unite for changes, for teach us, for unite us, because it's the key for struggle in the change this world. Because the power said to continue in the corruption hands. The here in the Brazil continue the corruption and the system continue the white supremacy. You need to struggle together for changes. Education for me, it is key change this world. The education, African-centric education. You need to know about us. You need to know about glory, African glory. Know about justice, slavery time. It's about the glory, the African start, the humanity starting African continent. The first people in the world, you need to unite for change this together.
All the challenges and spaces. Okay, I use our life experience as African people here in the UK in the 60s. When our mothers and fathers came here, they weren't given access to finances, and what we had to do was to return to our own traditional indigenous banking, which is called Kasuto. So it is therefore important that we must reject and completely refuse to use any paradigm, any system that does not cater to the wellness of our being. One of the issues that we're working with my sisters as part of reparation and reparative justice is repatriation, which is the returning of those who are stolen, like myself, to the land. And those who, the family at home basically provides you with the support and provides you with the traditional knowledge that you need to function within that space. So we're saying that one of the aspects of reparation and African reparation is rematriation before repatriation, where you then become a functional part of a local community. That's been my experience. I've been rematriated in a community in the Volta region, and I'm basically one of their functional child who has returned. When it comes down to land tenure, on the continent of Africa, what we're faced with is the European feudal system of land ownership. On the continent of Africa, we do not own land. It's passed on generationally. And the use of land is collective, cooperative, and communal, from which we get the word Ubuntu. The other aspect of it is that when it comes on to land, without that land, we're a powerless people. So really, as the sister rightly say, reparation has to be based on internal and self-prepare, which is knowledge of self. How many of us are prepared to take the time to go and find out and implement, not just know it, but use it? I haven't bought European clothes in 20 years. So I would prepare, I've got rid of the barcode name, not a name, the barcode, and restore my African being in terms of my own traditional names. And we must be in a position where we're strong enough to reject the negative energy of a people who themselves are trying to find out who they are, whether they are white or they are blue. Now, after the Bacon's Rebellion of 1675 and in 1681, the policy of defining and racializing people's rights was actually put in place. That's one of the other elements that we have to deal with in terms of the pathway to restoration and the functioning of the mind in the right way.
We have to go up with the rest of the closing. No, I hope this has been fruitful. Anything you need to share, please let us know with your details. There should be a steward or someone in the building to collect information so you can keep informed of the progress of the movement and the campaign.
Before, I would suggest and recommend that every one of us here in the room today decide with themselves to become active parts of self-learning group, that you can actually develop the paradigm that will then cause you to function in the way you should and see the results that you want.
Sister Vera, do you want to say a few last words?
Uncertain systems. And to bring our children, not to be afraid to speak the truth to our children.
Just to speak directly to the ongoing theme is first part of the reparation is self-repair. Self-repair needs to learn African self-learners, as you just said. Yeah. We have Robin Walker, who's actually attended. We have Tony Luna, we have Marcus Charmaine Simpson, we have David Simon, we have Paul Davino, we have many African history teachers. But further to that, Robin Walker has just produced The Black Secret, which is an online education, and you pay a subscription each month, and you can activate yourself so that you are emancipated from mental slavery, so you can be contribute towards reparation. So in learning, that first part of learning, because I'm curious to know how many people have taken the time to actually learn African history, not just the slavery part, sat down and learned all of it as much as you can and continue to do so. So the Black Secret, I encourage one-to-ones to look up to it, and then you can be starting the process of self-learning. What's your name? Martin, the brand. Or listen to Galaxy. Let's see if I can be real.
Just say I affirm to it's important you keep your words unite. You need to find your own way for notified, no continue to fight. You need to find a way to keep us together, because together you change this situation. Thank you.
And let me give a global African directory of action for repairs. If anyone wants to take that task up and go through the administration for that, share it with me. Okay, give thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.